These are the best equipment choices in Clash of Clans. I will go through every equipment to explain why it is ranked where it is, and why you should, or should not, use them in your attacks. To ensure this is not just me talking, I asked 5 top legend pushers and pro players to rank everything. I averaged this out to form the list. Starting with the Barbarian King, the worst equipment, from literally everyone's perspective, was the Barbarian Puppet. It is an outdated piece of equipment which offers no value in the current meta. The Barbarians get taken out by Splash incredibly easy. Next up though, the Vamstash, a low impact equipment because whilst it increases the survivability of your Barbarian King, you use it alongside the Snake Bracelet. The Spiky Ball is just better in that combination. The Vamstash can be used in niche cases at high level play, but against the majority of other bases, it's just outshined in the current meta. Number 5 for the Barbarian King is the Rage Vial. It can be used very effectively alongside the Giant Gauntlet when you are diving the king into a section of the base, especially if it is tightly compact. You can end up wiping out a huge section very quickly. However, it lacks versatility that a lot of the other equipment higher on the list will give you. For that reason, outside of the pairing alongside the Giant Gauntlet, it really doesn't have a lot of other use cases given the strategies which are typically used right now within the game. Given it is an epic, the Giant Gauntlet is next on the list. It really is used with that technique I just talked about, but this is the powerhouse of that combination. It was once the best piece of equipment for the Barbarian King. The best piece of equipment right now is his epic Giant Gauntlet. However, as there are new releases, sometimes synergies, depending on the strategies in the game, aren't as viable anymore, and that is why the Giant Gauntlet has slipped down the list over recent times. Coming in at number 3 though is the Earthquake Boots. I feel like when equipment was first released, this was overlooked, but it received a huge buff a number of months afterwards, and since then it has been top of the meta for a number of different strategies. The amount of versatility it gives you, irrespective of your town hall, is why it is used so often, especially being a common piece of equipment as well. It's not as costly to upgrade as epics, and you will see throughout this video that most of the rankings apply to every single town hall. It does depend a little bit, however, on the strategy you use. Is it a ground attack? Is it an air attack? I'll be giving you advice as we move through those. So for the Earthquake Boots, whether you're diving the king into the center of the base, that's where it's used to its best success, so that you can open up the walls, but also damage the buildings, and especially in combination with the Spiky Ball, you can one-shot most of those key defenses. Whilst in esports mode, this is not the case because of level caps. I'm not necessarily going to be going into esports mode too much within this video. This is really for legend mode and down over across wide range of town hall levels. You do have to be careful with some ground smash attacks though, such as throwers, where you might not want as many walls open because then it becomes more difficult to control where your troops will go. So you do have to assure when you're using the Earthquake Boots that you are conscious of the compartments that you're opening. If you open too much, your troops could split all over the place. Even on the outside of the base, the Earthquake Boots can give you good value as well. However, the number 2 piece of equipment for the Barbarian King is the Snake Bracelet. This was definitely a slow burner. A lot of people underestimated it when it was first released, but you are generating snakes, which help to protect the Barbarian King. And for most ground smash attacks, you don't want the Barbarian King in the base itself. You actually send him towards the outside of the base so that he can tank and make sure that your main force on the inside can stay in the center of the base. This is where the snakes are so useful because it gives the king way more survivability on the perimeter of the base. The beautiful thing about them as well is they scale with the modifiers, because the snakes generally are really low in hit points, which means should a monolith lock onto a snake, whether it's in regular mode or in legend or even esports mode, that one snake will still tank one shot off the monolith. So this equipment actually gains even more value the higher you go up in the leagues, and therefore you're playing with the difficulty modifiers. Before we move to the Archer Queen though, the number 1 and best equipment for the Barbarian King, some of you might have guessed it, It is the spiky ball. It is more versatile than the snake bracelet because even if you're using the Barbarian King on the outside of the base, how I just mentioned, you would be combining the snake bracelet with the spiky ball in order to get damage. Maybe it increases the funnel on the outside as well by taking out any of the non-defensive buildings can actually be pivotal in helping with that. But should you be using a technique where you're sending the king into the base and you're using the earthquake boots, well, you'd be pairing that with the spiky ball as well to finish off those buildings. So it really is the most used equipment for the Barbarian King because it is so powerful. On the same token, it is relatively easy to use. You're always going to get value from the spiky ball. You're not going to miss. Yes, there is some skill involved in making sure that perhaps you take out some of the non-defensive buildings on the outside with super barbarians to try and encourage the spiky ball to go into the base and damage the defenses, but you're never going to miss value with the spiky ball. And the other main benefit is it can be an assurance for you so that you don't quite time fail. Depending on the level, depends on how many targets it hits. However, at maximum level, once you get to 92%, you can press the king ability and know that it is going to bounce through every single one of the remaining buildings. Should there be a builder hut or a Tesla in the corner, you don't have to worry about it. Spiky ball will ping over there, take that down to make sure that you get your 3 stars. Moving to the Archer Queen, much like the Barbarian King, her base common equipment that was the original queen abilities are basically ranked at the bottom. The worst is the Archer Puppet. It really isn't very versatile. With that much splash around the base, the archers go down incredibly fast. And in at number 6 is the Invisibility Vial. Whilst once thought of as the queen ability, it's really just outshone with other options. It can be used in the Queen Charge Angry Jelly approach, which is sometimes used in esports matches, but now at Town Hall 18, not as common either. So other than that one niche use case, it's really not very effective because there are other equipment that also give you that invincibility effect, which is the main reason you were using the Invisibility Vial. Speaking of niche use cases is the Frozen Arrow. This is actually not a bad piece of equipment. It's very effective for queen charges. Should you be a lower town hall level and you are using the queen charge into dragons, Lalo, hybrid, the Frozen Arrow can be very effective at slowing down those defenses, but a lot of the time, even at lower level, it's not really needed as much, and at higher level, it's just not in the current meta. So for that reason, the Frozen Arrow is not very high on the list. In at number 4, though, is the Healer Puppet. This is a very versatile piece of equipment. However, it is mainly used when you are performing dragon attacks, where you're going to be using it in combination with the Giant Arrow early to snipe off air defense, and you then have healers on your queen as she's walking down the flank of the base. Whilst in most other attacks, we now have the action figure, which we will get to. You don't quite know whether it's going to move down the outside of the base, depending on the positioning. So the Healer Puppet does offer a lot more flexibility in just assuring they will stay with the Archer Queen. Always remember as well that with any of these equipment that spawns units, they are not maximum level units. The level of the healers is based on the level of your equipment, and even at maxed, the healers don't get to maxed level either. Just something to be aware of. Outside of dragon attacks, though, there are better options. That takes us into the top 3. Coming in at number 3 is the Giant Arrow. You can use it exactly as I mentioned, sniping off air defense or sweepers in some of the dragon style attacks. If you're focusing on esports mode, it maybe goes down the list a little bit because you can't one-shot air defense, but again, we're not worrying about that per se when it came to ranking the equipment in this video. Alongside that use case of the air defense and sweepers, it can also set the funnel for you because it might be able to wipe out builder huts, archer towers, any low HP buildings that are in the line of that. You can use to essentially cut the funnel, whether it be for root riders or dragons, anything where that arrow will help with the pathing because it does have quite a wide radius when you fire it through the base. The other advantage, especially in higher level play, is combining it with lightning spells in order to take out key defenses in the center of the base. Clearly, ranked mode is a key focus when it comes to competitiveness, and whilst in war attacks, you can spend a little bit more time to plan exactly how you're going to take things down. You can adjust the army. You can't do that in ranked, and the giant arrow is one of the best equipment to counter the invisibility spell tower. Should one of those be next to the town hall and you do not have a plan to take those out within your army, well, then you might end up one-starring, so you do have to be careful, and just flinging the arrow through that area to pop the invisibility tower, especially in ranked mode, can be a game changer. Coming in at number 2, though, is the magic mirror. This will clone your archer queen. At level 18, you will have 2 extra queens, and you can have those up to 30 seconds. So it increases the damage output against the base massively. Really helpful for those high stacked areas such as rage towers. Pop the queen ability, use a rage spell, you can power through those sections incredibly fast, and it's difficult to do without this equipment. Whilst not used as much at Town Hall 18, for some of the lower Town Hall levels, if you are using your queen on the outside of the base, let's say for example you're doing a super witch attack, and you need to funnel a section of the base to send the witches into the center, you can press the archer queen ability and funnel a section of the base incredibly fast, which again is a unique aspect of this ability. Nothing else can funnel an area faster. When you really need to have that damage on the base, 3 archer queens is going to make short work of it. This is incredibly effective, other than if you're pairing it with the giant arrow where you want to fling that straight away, because you might not want to spawn the queens immediately. That's where you would combine the giant arrow with either the action figure or the healer puppet. But essentially, any combination that you might be running where you're charging the queen into the base, the magic mirror is going to give you amazing value. I just mentioned it though, but the best equipment for the archer queen is the action figure. Being able to spawn a huge tanky giant in front of your queen, especially in combined with the magic mirror where you've then got 3 queens being protected that can be providing that damage the entire 30 seconds, hopefully, that you have those queens. Having that giant out in front is amazing. It gives you so much value. It's very easy to use. It's always going to give you that value. Again, it's not like you're going to miss unless you spawn the giant and it walks to the outside of the base. You'd have to get unlucky for you to mess up value as well, granted. But it is just so versatile. It has so many hit points. Not to mention it then becomes enraged when it drops below 50% and can actually help to really take out those defenses fast. It is such a versatile piece of equipment and should be highly prioritized in any of your strategies. Next up is the Grand Warden, and I will say across the top legend pushers and pro players, this one had a bit more debate as to which was the best equipment. I decided to release this video going through the heroes in order that we received them, so I've got the Minion Prince at the end. I will update this video from time to time. I may do it on my second channel a little bit more periodically, and then once a year maybe do the equipment ranking here on my main channel, but let me know in the comments if you would like me to just go through the heroes in order that they are unlocked, so Minion Prince would be 3rd. Anyways, the worst piece of equipment for the Grand Warden, drum roll please, do we need to say it? Sorry BD Legend, it is the Lava Loon Puppet. Even after the recent balance changes where at max level you now spawn 3 Lava Loons and the housing capacity is lower so you can clone an extra one of those, it still doesn't synergize well with other equipment or meta strategies. Sure, you could get it to work alongside dragons at lower Town Hall levels, but you're still giving up either the Eternal Tome, Healing Tome, Rage Gem, so many better pieces of equipment for the Warden, which we'll get to, so ultimately the Lava Loon Puppet is not recommended. At number 6 is the Life Gem. Now, we actually had this higher on the list prior to the balance changes, and even though it got a buff, it is very situational. You can use it alongside Super Bowlers or Throwers, but ultimately, due to the HP cap, which at maximum level is 1,200, you are better off just merging in an Apprentice Warden And again, using a different piece of equipment because the Warden has so many good pieces of equipment that in order to use one of these, you have to trade one of those better ones out. Now, the Heroic Torch comes in at number 5. This is the one that moved up a spot after the balance changes because it is a lot more usable due to the increased stats that it received, but it can still mean that you lose control in your attack. Now, if you know that you can use the Eternal Tome and mass Valkyries will just run right into the center of the base, it can get you incredible value. But equally, if you're not careful and you haven't created pathing, those troops can split and go all over the place. That is why many people just opt to use the Earthquake Boots or a jump spell in order to create that access through the base once they get there. Now, ultimately, at Town Hall 18, the Heroic Torch can be used alongside Meteor Golems as you are pushing out of the Town Hall core area. Since a lot of the bases have that ring of walls around them, you can equally overgrowth an area of the base on the outside, meaning your troops would stick together as they run through the walls. So it's definitely better than it used to be, but it's still not as good as these next pieces of equipment. Next up, though, is the Healing Tome. A very good piece of equipment. From here on for the Warden, they are phenomenal. It depends a little bit on your strategy. For example, if you're using dragons, especially if you're not a Town Hall 18, the Healing Tome can be great to give you that little bit extra life through the base. Some players prefer the Rage Gem, but dragons generally are quite quick, so the Healing Tome can actually give you that little bit extra flexibility should you hit areas of the base where there is a lot of damage, especially if you're combining this with the Eternal Tome. When you hit the core, you have all of the air mines popping up. You can not only protect the dragons, you can then heal them back up in the damage they took to get to the core. Likewise, in a ground smash attack, one thing that can cause you to fail hard is if you lose your healers. And the Healing Tome offers you a safety net. Should the healers hit red air mines, you can pop the ability and heal them right back up. Number 3 on the list, though, I just mentioned it because it can be interchangeable with the Healing Tome. It offers a little bit more versatility. It is the Rage Gem. At Town Hall 18, a lot of players prefer this more than the Healing Tome, whether it be with dragon attacks where you're spending a long time allowing the Flame Flinger to set up the pathing, and therefore you need your dragons to be even quicker, or whether it be with Warden walks or smash attacks. You've equally, if you can control the Coco Loons in order to protect the healers, you then have a 50% boost on not just the troops moving through the base, but a 50% boost onto the healers that are healing those troops. Especially when it comes to fireball attacks, very common for numerous Town Hall levels. You would want to pair the Rage Gem with this because it basically powers the Warden up, makes him a lot faster as you're setting up that fireball, and unlike the Healing Tome, it is not an active ability. So when you press the Warden ability to launch the fireball, you're not then like losing out and only using the Rage Gem during that period. Number 2, though, it is the Fireball. It is essentially one of the best equipment in the game. It's really the versatility that caused a lot of debate between this one. But the Fireball can often be your win condition. It has a 6-tile area of effect, and alongside Earthquake spells, can take out that entire section. Whether it is damage that you're taking out, a lot of the times you might actually fireball the clan castle so you don't have to deal with CC troops. That can help with speeding up time of your attack. But a lot of the time the fireball is used for pathing, taking out a section of the base so that whatever you're entering in with afterwards, you've already got the funnel set. Obviously, you have to practice a little bit more with the fireball. It does have a higher skill ceiling, but to be honest, it's not that difficult to perform either once you get used to it. You can use invisibility spells to turn defenses invisible to launch the fireball deeper into the base. You just have to make sure that there are also non-defensive buildings that you're not turning invisible that the Warden can stand and lock onto so that he doesn't go racing across the base after launching the fireball, because you want the Warden to survive to utilize the Rage Gem after you have launched it. That takes us to the number 1 best piece of equipment for the Grand Warden, though. Even though it was reworked and a lot of people thought this is the end of the Eternal Tome, it only works when troops are inside the ability. it is still the best equipment for the Grand Warden. When you press it, it offers immunity to any of the troops or heroes inside of the aura. Should something move into the aura, it is also protected after that rework. It's just that when things leave the aura after 1 second, they are no longer immune, but it basically gives you so much versatility, especially when you're going through high damage areas, and it can be used with essentially any strategy as long as you're not using the fireball as an opener. Ground attacks, air attacks, any town hall level, this will give you brilliant value. You clearly just want to use it when you are going to be going into those highest damage areas to protect your troops and assure that they can take those down effectively. Moving to the Royal Champion, the worst piece of equipment, number 7 on the list, is the Royal Gem. It is very underwhelming. It offers some healing to the Royal Champion, but with so many better options, and you have so many spells you can use to support the Royal Champion now as well, whether it be the invisibility spell, totem spell, skeleton spell, you just really don't need the Royal Gem. Next up as well, mirroring the Barbarian King and Archer Queen, the base equipment, the Seeking Shield is just outshone. Whilst it does provide a good amount of damage, goes to defenses, and can help you to snipe off an air defense at the back end of the base for dragons, again, there are just better options. You now have the Rocket Spear, which we're going to get to, and in 99.9% of cases, it's just not worth trading out one of the other pieces of equipment to take the Seeking Shield. Yes, again, when it comes to war bases, there might be very specific scenarios for like any of the equipment here on the list, but generally speaking, Seeking Shield is just not part of the current meta. It just has such a little impact. Number 5 on the list is the Hog Rider Puppet. This spawns a bunch of Hog Riders, and it also gives your Royal Champion a second of invisibility. Now, that 1 second is why many players used to use this, because if you were focusing on a different part of the attack and you lost control of your Royal Champion, she was about to go down, that 1 second would mean the Hog Riders get out in front and your Royal Champion is protected. Give you a bit of a lifeline. However, with so much splash around the base, Hog Riders often just go straight down to giant bombs, or a scatter shot will wipe them out. So it really doesn't give you the best value. There are better options for the Royal Champion. Even with the recent buff, giving an extra Hog Rider and increasing their level, it didn't change its position on the ranking. Again, at lower Town Hall levels, if the base is tightly compact, you can see exactly where you're going to use the Hog Rider Puppet. It may give you good value, and you can absolutely use the equipment or any of the equipment in those scenarios. But if you're looking for the best, most versatile and powerful equipment in the meta right now, Hog Rider Puppet is not it. Number 4 is also situational. It is the Haste Vial, but it is situational in a meta strategy. The Royal Champion Dive. Especially if you are doing extended Royal Champion dives, the Haste Vial can give you so much more value once you get used to when to use the equipment. Essentially, in combination with the Electro Boots, you don't have to worry about the active ability for the Electro Boots. So when you know that the Royal Champion is going to be in one specific area for a long period of time, i.e. she has got to the core of the base, she's about to hit all of the major defenses, you can press the Haste Vial, gives her a little bit of HP recovery, but then she will power through those high HP defenses incredibly fast, meaning that you can get way more value out of those deeper Royal Champion dives. Again, irrespective of your Town Hall level, if you're doing those for Root Rider Valkyrie attacks or for Dragon attacks, I would highly recommend the Haste Vial in combination with the Electro Boots, which clearly we will get to. Spoiler alert, I'm sure people can guess where that is ranked. Number 3 is the most recent equipment, in that of the Frost Flake. It is a supportive style equipment and can be very effective for supporting smash style attacks, which are key right now in the meta. Whether you're using like a fireball rocket loon attack and you're using the heroes to pick off certain areas of the base, it can be great for that because not only does it protect the royal champion, it can protect the other heroes in the area as well. Or if you are using any sort of smash attack at Town Hall 18, the Fireball Meteor Golems is the most popular. As your Royal Champion is moving through the base, as long as you can time the ability effectively, which does take a bit of practice, you can freeze the back end of the base, protecting not just the Royal Champion, but your Meteor Golems as well. And because they have unlimited range, you can hit defenses in the core, which is really helpful when it comes to those smash attacks. It can just be difficult to use, but being high skill cap does not mean that it's a trash piece of equipment. It's very good if you can use it correctly, but if you're wanting something that's ease of use, maybe the Frost Flake is not for you. The Rocket Spear, which is coming in at number 2, might be. This can be used in so many situations. Just like I mentioned with the Seeking Shield, you can use it to snipe off defenses towards the perimeter of the base. Can be very helpful in any dragon attacks, sniping off air defense, but it can be also used to protect your Royal Champion as she's moving through the base. Below Town Hall 18, when the Town Hall is still a defense, you can use this effectively to snipe the Town Hall as everything else is moving around, but irrespective of the Town Hall level, because the Royal Champion is defense targeting and she is fast, what sometimes happens is she will start to move ahead of your main army. If she is doing that and she's going to run into too much damage, you could use some support spells for her, or you can press the ability and the Rocket Spear will stop the Royal Champion in motion as she does increase damage onto those defenses, and it means that the rest of your army can get back ahead of the Royal Champion, where there she is then protected again towards the back end of the base. So you get more DPS on the Royal Champion as passive boosts as she's moving through the base. It allows you to protect her if she's getting too far ahead. You can use it to snipe off different defenses. Lots of different scenarios. Very powerful. That's why it's ranked where it is. But at number 1, it is the Electro Boots. Still the best equipment by far. Whether it's those Royal Champion dives where the aura is taking out any skeletons so she can just focus on the defenses, it is equally damaging the defenses with the aura, or whether it's when she's moving through the base, you have passive healing on the Royal Champion, which was one of the key benefits of the Electro Boots that a lot of people overlook. When the Frostflake equipment came out, I was testing all different combinations, trying to get the Frostflake to work in my style of smash attacks, but what I found is I just couldn't replace the Electro Boots, not because of the aura and the skeletons, but because the Royal Champion is alive for so long during the attack, and that passive healing helps you to take down so much more of the base. Needless to say, in pretty much any strategy that you're using, especially in the current meta, the Electro Boots is going to be a phenomenal addition for you to help get you more success. Moving on to the Minion Prince then. The worst equipment at number 6 is the Noble Iron. It can be, again, just like any equipment, situational. You can absolutely use it for Minion Prince dives to take out a section of the base. However, even if you're doing that, generally there's better options, whether it's a Royal Champion dive, whether it's the Fireball, whether it's a Queen Charge at some of the lower Town Hall levels where it is more viable. You don't tend to go with the Minion Prince opener, plus the other abilities for the Minion Prince tend to just be so much better. In at number 5 is the Henchman Puppet. This is actually a great piece of equipment. Everybody agreed that the Henchman Puppet does offer you good value. You spawn the 2 tanks, they can test for black mines, they absorb damage, especially in combination with the Dark Orb. It can give you really good value in the base. However, there are just better equipment now that there's epics released. Now, when it comes down to the management of your ore and what you need to upgrade, should you be using the Minion Prince in some of your dragon attacks, it might be that if your Henchman Puppet is already upgraded, you focus on other equipment that we've talked about in this video that are going to be more pivotal. But if you want the absolute strongest piece of equipment, which is what this video is about, it is not about managing your ore. Maybe that's something we can do at a different date in terms of your upgrade guides. But in terms of strength of equipment, the Henchman Puppet is just not quite as good as those epics. for a wide range of bases and strategies. The Metal Pants is in at number 4. This can be very helpful if you're sending the Minion Prince solo into an area of the base, protecting you against seeking air mines. This actually gives you even better value if you're playing in difficulty modifiers. Right now, people use this for like Fireball Rocket Loon attacks, where you're trying to use the Minion Prince to solo an area of the base. However, for more common Dragon, Electro Dragon, Super Dragon, any of the Dragon type attacks, it's not the equipment that you'd be wanting to use. In at number 3, though, is the Meteor Staff for the Minion Prince, especially in those Dragon attacks. Right now in the meta, we have Mass Dragon and Mass Totem attacks. The Meteor Staff is fantastic because you need to try and get the splash damage defenses distracted, get them off the base as fast as possible. And the Meteor Staff can help with that because it's targeting those buildings in front of your Minion Prince. There is obviously the drawback that it does make your Minion Prince itself weaker, but it tends to be behind the dragons, and it can lose some value, like if you take out a building and then the Meteor Staff comes down. But in general, it does provide you really good value moving through the base with those dragon attacks, and it can be more consistent depending on the openers that you're using, because should you pay next piece of equipment, the Dark Orb with the Minion Prince, you have to be able to charge that up, whereas the Meteor Staff is just dealing damage from the off. So in the current meta, where you're using the Flame Flinger to take out a chunk of the base, and then you're using the Dragons and the Minion Prince later, and even then the Totem spells to protect them, you don't want the troops going down, you're not charging the Dark Crown as fast, and therefore that's where the Meteor Staff is very helpful. Should you be performing your dragon attacks slightly different though, the Dark Crown is in at number 2 because it can actually be more powerful. If you're doing a Royal Champion dive into dragon attacks, this is when you would want to use the Dark Crown. A lot of the time you will be using the Siege Barracks on the outside of the base. That is spawning more units, which as they go down, you're leveling up the Dark Crown. A lot of the time with that approach as well, where your dragons are more of the brute force through the base, you may use a Lava Hound or an Ice Hound, anchoring that to an air defense, and when that pops, all of the lava pups are equally charging up your Dark Crown, because it really gives you the benefit once you get up to the 30% boost. So for that new approach of Mass Dragons, Mass Totems, the Meteor Staff is better. For any of your more traditional approaches in setting up the dragons, go with the Dark Crown. But the number 1 piece of equipment, hands down, everyone said it, the Dark Orb. It synergizes with everything. It provides excellent value at any town hall level, in any strategy. The amount of area you can freeze and for the duration of time is phenomenal, especially being a common piece of equipment. It can trigger invisibility spell towers at the far side of the base before your dragons even get there due to its range. It increases your offensive power by allowing you to push through stacked areas, and clearly the survivability of all of your troops. That is why it is the best Minion Prince ability. That is the ranking of everything. I want to thank Stars, Hawk, Crispy, Nez4X, and Kronos for all of their input into this video. Thank you so much, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will place a recommended video on your screen YouTube thinks you will like. Enjoy the rest of your day.